Alright, hi everybody. So my name is Tay. Welcome to my channel. I don't really post very much, but I just wanted to quickly record my thoughts because I've just been thinking about something for a little bit. And I just got back from Seabeck, Washington a few weeks ago. And now I'm back in Michigan, but I was there to keynote speak at the Fellowship of Reconciliation Conference, the regional conference there. And something happened, during the speech that I wanted to talk about really quickly and, just really put out my thoughts about it, because it's about a bigger issue as well. So really what had happened was, early on when I first started my keynote speech, I usually try to give disclaimers in terms of the content. Maybe not in terms of like certain topics that'll be addressed, not always, but I'll give disclaimers in terms of the fact that I cuss during my talks, and also that I'll give a disclaimer about the identities that I hold, that I walk into the room with, right? As a cis woman, as a thin person, as, someone who does not cover my hair and wear hijab all the time, despite like that I'm Muslim, and, the privilege that grants me. And so I talked about the different privileged identities that I share. And, I remind people that even though it's not, especially if you're marginalized, it's not your responsibility to correct me if I'm on some bullshit, if I end up spewing some oppressive bullshit. But if they do feel passionate about, like me fucking up, if I do that, then please, come to me, go to someone else who can come to me later on, tell me later on social media, interrupt my ass, because if I'm saying some oppressive shit, that shit needs to be corrected as soon as possible, right? And so I give those types of disclaimers before I speak, before I begin my actual keynote speech. So I was giving those disclaimers, and I was just starting my keynote, and, this old white woman, I don't know how old she was. She was like maybe like 60 something. I don't know. Her whole head was white, so we're gonna say she was up there. But we're gonna call her Marjorie. So Marjorie said, she interrupted me and she said, that she didn't feel comfortable with me cussing. Something about like she tries to stay away from environments with that have a lot of cussing in it, because something like she didn't want to take that on, and she didn't want that to influence her, and some other stuff. I don't remember what all she said, but she gave like this really weird reason that I just hadn't really heard before. But anyway, the point is that she was expressing discomfort about my cussing, and so I addressed it. And I was just like, yeah, like, even though I was caught off guard, I was like, yeah, girl, like, if you feel uncomfortable, about me cussing during this, feel free to take care of yourself, walk out if you need to, prioritize yourself and prioritize, your own mental health and emotional health, because you come first in your situation, right? But I'm gonna continue my speech. So I began my keynote. And, it was addressed later on by the communications people, and then also my co-keynotes, had checked the woman about tone policing and, really handled the situation very beautifully, and I appreciated that. But I'm thinking about it now, especially after, hearing like the follow-ups, and hearing that, after, like, the people who were talking to her, to Marjorie, they were saying that she, thought that it would be best if I didn't cuss, because people would get my message better. Shit I've heard before, right? Shit we often hear all the time, because when we cuss a lot, we're seen as less respectable and so forth. And so although I addressed it very briefly before starting my keynote that day, I do have like additional comments, because, first of all, I want to say that it's anti-black and classist as fuck to be totally, against cussing, even though people do have, their preferences. Sometimes that could be triggering, right? But like to be totally against it because it's improper language, that usually is anti-Black and based off of like classist beliefs as well. And really, I just want to reiterate that, when I get up on that stage, I'm gonna talk to you how I'm gonna talk to you as soon as I get off the stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I get up on that stage and I start my keynote or I start my workshop or what have you, right? Like, I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna talk to you like I am still your sister. I'm still, your auntie, right? I'm still your friend, probably not if you're white, but whatever, or cishet, but whatever, but when I get up there, I'm a relative to you somehow. And I'm gonna talk to you like the same way that I'm gonna talk to you as soon as I get off this stage. And, a lot of people don't really feel that way and don't understand that type of idea, because, I know at Allied Media Conference this year, I was having a conversation with my friends and we were talking about the type of disconnect that happens when there are like panels and, keynote speakers and things like that, and how as soon as they get on that stage, right, or they are behind this table or behind the microphone, like there's automatically this like weird dynamic that happens where we like automatically assume that that just because they're up there on that stage or just because they're behind that table, that they're automatically this expert on everything, and that they have the right to be unquestioned or go without critique and things like that, right? So they're assumed to have all of this power and go unquestioned without, and still maintain that power. And, I try to avoid that, right? Like I open myself up, for critique and questions specifically from more marginalized folks. Usually if you're white, like I'm like, girl, like I'll talk to you another time, or maybe not at all, but whatever. And so, that's really important to like recognize that type of dynamic, right? That like when we get up there, we're assumed to be the experts, but we're also deemed as, these respectable people. We're assumed to be these respectable people, probably in a suit, probably in, some fancy ass shit, right? But the thing is that, like, I shouldn't have to distance myself from my culture and my personality in order to be seen as an expert or professional of any kind, because really that's fucked up. It's really fucked up. Like I said, when I get on that stage, I'm going to talk to you how I'm going to talk to you right now, or not even like right now, because I'm getting real passionate about and angry about this shit all over again. But really, I'm going to come at you authentically, and I'm going to, hold myself to the standard of, being real to myself and being real with myself, right? And yeah, I want to put it out there that ain't nobody, better than nobody else for not cussing, right? Like ain't nobody better for cussing either. Shit, like let people speak how they want to speak, and remember that the English that we are taught to use in professional settings, it's only considered proper because of white supremacy, right? And so I'm going to keep speaking the way that I speak during my workshops, during my keynote speeches, and I encourage y'all to do that too, like in whatever setting that, you are speaking in, especially if you're getting paid. Like if they're inviting you to come and present and be your authentic self, right? If you feel safe enough to be true to yourself and, and feel safe enough to not code switch, or if you're too tired to code switch, right? Do that shit. I challenge you to do that shit if you really feel comfortable enough to do that, right? And, I also want to hold space and honor that, like, not everybody can feel safe in certain settings. And that's valid too, but don't come at me like that. Don't come at me like that, okay? So, shout out to Marjorie, because she apologized, a little bit later, a few days later. But that's all I gotta say. Thank you for listening.